Great stuff. So yeah, good morning, everyone, again. Good to see you all. Colin is going to give us a quick refresher on reporting and data export. So yeah, without further ado, Colin, I'll hand over to you. I'd also just say, again, to our guests, anyone who wants to ask questions, etc., jump in. But over to you, Colin.
Yeah, all right. So that should be a fairly quick session, but what we wanted to cover today was analytics and especially the reporting aspects of it in Skore. So Skore is a very visual tool, and I think this is what brings us together, is that we like seeing things as a diagram. It obviously is for this kind of content, it's much easier to read than probably a Word document, much more visual and palatable. And we also have obviously drill downs that allow us to break down the work. So one of the things we believe that differentiates Skores quite heavily is what we call instant analytics. So the fact that I can extract role description, job descriptions in just one click, and I can have some little charts and insights that are output by the system automatically. So there are charts all over the place. We have some here in the role manager. We have some in analytics, and Skore does a big deal of presenting this data to you in a way that helps you understanding what's going on in your project. And as I always say, what is the next best thing I can do with this process? How does it help me making a decision for my process? But obviously we can't really cater all the needs, and sometimes you may want to extract this information for whatever reason to continue the analysis in Excel, for example, or have it in a format where you can combine this data with other data somewhere else. So this is why we have the reporting, and in the reporting in Skore, so the reports tab, which is available to everyone, we can extract all the things that have been entered in Skore in your process when you're mapping your process in the visual editor. All the information that you have in these boxes, they can be extracted in these reports. So here I'm on the basic one, the first one that is selected when you open. It's the work activities. So I have all the information about my box, the text, the type of the box, the depth, what are the roles that are involved, the attachments that I have attached, the parent box. And then I also have, if you're doing a kind of a SIPOC report, you know, so I'm sure some of you have done that already, supplier input, what is the process, and output and customer. Again, here you have all the information because you have all the inbound activities and inbound white boxes text, and also the suppliers. So suppliers and inbound is together, and then you have outbound and customer roles. So it gives you really a lot of information that you may want to extract and analyze into Excel. So how do you do that? There's an export button in the top right corner that allows you to fetch this data and download it. So the most likely way is to do as an Excel file. So if I click here, export to Excel, then it will download an Excel file that will look exactly like that.
Quick question there, Colin. I find the SIPOC information there is really interesting. Does it just populate based on the information you've put on a basic process, or did you actually go out and try and get the SIPOC?
No. It's all your reports are automatic from what you've mapped in the process.
Really?
So if I look at this box, send appropriate immigration forms. So actually, you see that there's a lot of links a lot of things that are clickable in these reports. So if you click, it will bring you to, so if I click on this box text, it will actually navigate directly to the right box text. So this was this one, right? Send appropriate immigration forms. So here we see that we have the inbound what box and Y box, confirm types of visa requirements done by a recruiter. And so this is my supplier.
Your supplier comes from there.
And then I have my candidate, which is the customer in the SIPOC methodology, to complete the immigration documentation. So let's go back to process. Let's find again, it was box 909. 909. So I have send appropriate immigration form. I can see here the recruiter is the supplier, and I can see the, what was it? The recruiter.
The customer was
and
the candidate. Yes.
Yeah. So supplier is here and candidate is there. I've lost the headers here, but supplier, recruiter with the box, and candidates there.
Oh, nice. I've never actually scrolled that far. So it's really good to see. Thank you.
Yeah, and there's quite a lot in this report. So what these columns I introduced you are just the ones that are displayed by default. But if you click on the customize report in the top right corner, top left corner, sorry, there's much more columns. And again, all these columns that are not shown by default, they may be more useful when you're doing analytics outside of the tool. So the parent box ID, the children box text. So all the information, I mean, I hope, just tell me if there's things missing. Number of child boxes, number of children box IDs. So we can basically add quite a lot of information on these reports. And the main purpose of all these additional columns that you have is to make your life easier once you export it to Excel. Okay. Right, so they may not all be super valuable to do analytics yourself by hand, but when you do formulas in Excel, it can be very, very convenient to have all these IDs and stuff that you can cross-reference and VLOOKUP and whatnot. So there's a lot of columns actually available there that may be useful in some cases. And actually, we are adding more in the release coming up sometime today. There's even more columns to simplify analytics outside of Skore. So as a summary, all the data you type in the process editor can be found in the reporting. Not all the columns are shown by default, so sometimes you may want to go to customize reports to see if there's missing additional information that may be helpful for you. And once you've selected your report, you can export everything from the export menu on the top right corner. The most likely format you want to use is export to Microsoft Excel, but I know some people are using clipboard because it just like doing a Control-C, a copy, Command-C on Mac, or Control-C and copy, and you can paste directly into Excel. So some people like it. Yeah, so what I've shown here is the work activities. So the work activity is one line per box. Okay, so again, on the customized reports, I can filter by type of boxes I want. So it creates one line per box. But sometimes, and we were talking about Racy and Archie and all these notations, my favorite one is the RATSI. Sometimes it's worth doing an extract by roles. So here, this role report gives you one line per role allocated. So to say it in another way, if you have one box that has two roles, like this one, the box 750, this box has two roles, and we see the same box text and the same box ID. So it creates two lines in this report. Okay, so this report is great because then it's basically the report on which the role manager is based, right? So here I can group by role name, and I can see all the activities where a given role is involved. So the candidate is doing a couple of things. The HR administrator is doing all these activities. So very powerful. And again, there's much more columns that are hidden and can be added into the report that are not shown by default. So back to grouping by role, the candidate, and then I can see what do I have at the top. I have the box text and the box type, obviously, but we can also have suppliers and customers. Here they are. So suppliers with a count. So it tells me, all right, let's take a good example. Yeah, the line manager in this box interacts with the recruiter as actually before and after as a supplier and a customer. And the budget holder as well. I need to go and see the top suppliers IDs. Ah, yeah, that's per ID. Oh, Okay, interesting. Suppliers and customers. So all the information is coming up again and again, all over the place to allow you to do analytics outside of Skore. So this is roles.
Can I just mention something when it comes to roles that we've come across? So not directly related to what we're doing here, so apologies for that. But what we find sometimes is as we are documenting a process, right, you go and then you try and quantify when you go and assign costs to your roles. Yeah. And then it looks like it takes. So you save and then you can move on. But then when you now go on to look at the other reports, particularly like the lean business case or the RPASS or whatever, then you find that actually the roles didn't take. So when you go back, you can see that the costs are in there, but the system hasn't kind of taken those figures. And then it's only like, and it's kind of happened quite a lot. And then it only takes up to about 10, 15 minutes or so. So maybe that's something to look into.
So it's like it doesn't save the role, the cost of a role.
Yeah.
All right. Okay, that's a bug. So cost of role is not saved, basically.
Yes.
Okay. I need to have a look. Maybe I'll. Did that happen to you or one of your colleagues?
So it's happened in almost every training session that we've had this week. Yeah.
All right. Okay, I need to look at that. So maybe I'll get in touch with you if I cannot reproduce it myself.
Yes, great.
Okay.
Thanks.
All right. I've noted. All right. I will try to reproduce that myself and get it. Yes. So work activity, roles, attachments. Attachments is showing. Okay, there's no attachments in this process. It's showing the report by attachment. Again, can be in some use case can be super helpful, especially if you're using custom fields. Let's go in a process that uses custom fields. If you're using custom fields quite heavily, this is quite powerful to be able to extract them. I think we have a number of custom fields here. Yes. Reports, attachments. Okay, I don't know why they don't come up. Okay, I need to double check, but here you would have the attachments by custom fields. Again, very, very powerful thing. I have quantify enabled for this process, so I can extract all the quantify data. Something wrong. It's a demo effect, I guess. Questionnaires, if you're using questionnaires. So yeah, I will double check why it doesn't show. But essentially, all the data you're entering is extractable to reports, which can make it very, very convenient. Any questions?
I've got one. If
please
might go to the audience as well, which is typically what. Can you give us examples? I'm interested to hear what Steve and Normagina and Tandu think as well, and others about how people use these reports. And how would you take what typically, Colin, do you see amongst our user groups? They extract this data, which is you can see intuitively is really powerful, but to sort of bring it live, I'd be interested to know where you see it being used in the most sort of effective way.
Especially with roles is where I see it. Talking to the end user customer, saying you use this role an awful lot, and how many people is that? They go, oh, one, and you can see whether they're overloaded. The other thing is if you've got a senior manager intruding into a process which is pretty low down, that's sort of a bit of a red flag, really. Just very quickly, is it possible to pin or to have the header stay where it is, where you're scrolling?
Yeah, as I was demoing, that was going through my head. But yeah, the header bar should stick to the top.
Yeah.
So I mentioned that a couple of times. We are doing a massive redesign of Skore, so it will probably I will write that down as a requirement for the new big version of Skore, because we are changing the way the reports will be shown, so it will be a little bit more better for us as developers.
Yeah, when there's lots of columns,
Yeah,
I get lost.
Exactly. But on the flip side, I mean, definitely having the header column, the header line stick to the top would be nice. On the flip side, when you have all the lot of data, Excel, doing an export to Excel is probably much more convenient to deal with a large amount of data. Yeah, but I need to, because we are changing the module to display reports, so header, I don't know how they call it, row, the header row, heading row to stick to the top.
You almost need the header outside of that data thing, so it sits up between work activities and where, but it's got work activities in already. There's a field that's blank. Yeah. It almost needs to sit there. So when you're exporting, but I suppose you do you want to also export the titles as well, I suppose.
Yeah, absolutely. Good. So yeah, the main reports I've used personally are the roles one, because it's good to be able to group, to say, all right, give me all the responsible, or in RACI maybe all the roles with an accountability. This could be to have like interesting discussions when it comes to job descriptions. So here I see I have RACI, but it will adapt to whatever tagging you're using. The other one I've used is the one in attachments, to group to extract all the requirements, basically, because we were using the custom fields to have requirements, and using the reports, I could just extract. So here the custom fields have been used for risks, but our custom fields are very, very flexible. We were using them to capture requirements, and it was super helpful to just extract all the, okay, there's something wrong here, to extract all the requirements in an Excel file and just easier to review outside of the product.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, it's interesting. That's both those answers are the two things I suppose that would have come to my mind. The roles and the requirements, both you can see an obvious need to. And I suppose anything you put into custom fields would be really useful. The one I haven't thought a lot about, which would be interesting, is the work activities and how you see people use those.
So the work activities is more around. Sorry, there's something wrong here. The work activities is more around SciPoc that I find it interesting. But personally, it's not a report that I had to extract and that I've just used into Excel and transformed it into Excel before presenting to customers.
Yeah, for us as well, typically we'd look at the roles and particularly the attachments. So like you say, when we extract the requirements, we also capture, acceptance criteria, business rules, and that sort of thing under attachments. So that's particularly powerful for us. And largely I had ignored the work activities because I hadn't really seen the value. But now that I know that you can do the SciPoc view of that, I will be using that a lot more. So thank you.
Yeah, exactly. And this is what I'm trying to make in I talked about the redesign of Skore and changing this module for reports. I'm trying to make it a little bit more user-friendly, so it's easier to see that you can scroll to the right, because I had a number of users telling me a similar story that they didn't notice we could scroll to the right. And also making the selection of columns a little bit more obvious also.
Cool.
Great. So I'm asked very frequently to add columns to these reports, so don't hesitate. I've tried to add everything I can think of, but for whatever scenario there's columns and data missing, I'm happy to consider the request, so don't hesitate there.
Okay, fantastic. Well, look, I think we've given that subject good coverage and great questions as ever, and ideas. So thank you all very much. I'll just close the recording now, and then we can just sort of finish up any sort of final questions anyone's got. So thanks all.